September elk hunting, crisp air, the amazing outdoors, and screaming bulls. Oh my Lord, that's a whole lot of good right there. However, I bet it's safe to say that the majority of elk hunters hitting the woods in September depend on two things to create an opportunity: seeing or hearing a bull. But what happens when you're not seeing elk or hearing bugles? What's the plan B? Well, we can tell you this. Other than hiking and hoping, most elk hunters don't have one. On today's show, calling strategies when elk go silent in September. That discussion, our listener shout outs, and questions from our awesome ElkBros mailbox. So, my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
This is my life, country born and raised. When that whistle blows, I'm on the trail, pounding in my head. There's a will, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gillia. You want to hunt elk? They live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy the show. And as always, for our blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host of your show, and joining me today, we got the Texas Elk Tornado, Mr. Charlie Newberry, and the Mountain Runner, Mr. Jeremy Gilbertson's in the house. And we've got the Western Contours man himself, the man with the golden voice, Mr. Guy Duplantier is in the house. And WWJGD is in the house, and we got it teed up and ready to hit it deep. Joe, how's it going, boys?
Man, it's been a while.
Howdy, guys.
Just a day or two.
What do you mean, wow? We seen y'all last night.
Yeah.
We did the giveaway last night, man. The first ever. You can't forget that.
Well,
Absolutely, man.
I meant it's been a while since we've been together to do a show, right?
Yeah.
The last time
No, we did do one. We did one at the Hunt Expo, and then Joe hit the button after 27 minutes.
Oh, it's my fault.
Oh, it's Joe's fault.
God dang, man.
Yeah, man. It was Joe's fault touching the button over there trying to adjust something.
Remember when you reached over and I had to readjust? I was looking at it, I'm like, damn, he hit the pause when he come over there. That's the only reason it explains it.
Okay, so you're saying I hit it, you saw me pause it, and you
No. I didn't see you pause it, you son of a bitch.
Huh?
What I saw you do is hit track one. I adjusted track one, but from where I was at, I couldn't see the blue button go orange.
Whose equipment was it?
What he's saying,
it was your podcast.
What he's saying was, Joe, that he couldn't see the blue. He's a little colorblind, so he couldn't see the blue go orange. When
Oh my God. He's sitting right there watching me, man. Oh God!
Dude, we were a little distracted too, Joe. There was some distracting things going on. It was really hard to keep Joe on task because of distractions.
Now we're getting to the truth. See, now we're getting to the truth. Guy was in the wrong seat and not paying attention.
Look, it's
to
your
the kid.
podcast. You are sitting in the seat of LFA. Of El Capitan, or whatever else Gil would say.
I'm so glad I had my back turned to the fur booth.
That's absolutely right.
Us.
We were focused, Gil.
That's right.
That's the only thing I could figure out when I was looking at everything. I'm like, it had to be when we had to make the adjustment.
Yeah,
I forget what you reached over.
Probably was. All I know is it killed about another 40 something minutes of our podcast.
Yeah, almost an hour. Yeah.
But look, man, the stuff that we got out was freaking awesome. So
yeah,
I hope everybody enjoyed it. And then Joe did what Joe does best and put some finishing touches on the end. About strategies and stuff like that, and it was phenomenal. And look, I'll be real honest, I don't listen back to a lot of our podcasts because I am in the middle of it, right? But when I do, they're usually phenomenal. And I wanted to hear Dallin Staker on video and on audio. I wanted to hear what he sounded like. I wanted to hear what Luis sounded like, which he's always spot on. So, I mean, having those guys there were big for me and Joe as well. And then look, I've never been to one of the expos, so I was like a kid in a candy store, man. And Guy was so cool to us and allowing us to judge the calling
Yeah.
competition. First one I'd ever been to. Really cool, man. I can't thank you enough, Guy, for leading us in the right direction there.
Stop thanking me.
Yeah, no, it
You guys are the
was.
one that provided the service. I was the beggar, bro.
Well, you
Yeah,
know,
I was the beggar.
that's where I tell you what, man, you can tell how good this DaVinci Resolve is that I do my editing on because I mean, that was a noisy background and that DaVinci
No doubt.
Resolve cleaned it up really good, man.
I had trouble focus. So I have a touch of ADD, just a little bit.
Really?
And
A
yeah,
little?
yeah. Oh yeah. So for me, all of that going on was really hard for me to focus because I could still hear it, and it was very hard for me to focus. But that stuff that you used, whatever it was, man, it was awesome
Yeah,
because it drowned a lot of that out.
Guy, I think you've been using
Yeah.
something that's been cleaning yours up too, like that.
Yeah, I use, but I use Audition. I use the
Okay.
Adobe stuff, and
Yeah.
it pulls all that background out.
Yeah. And so, yes, we were together last night. We did a drawing last night for our first adventure club
Club.
winner of a $10,000 hunt. It was so cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. We had some questions about that too, Joe. About, could guys get in the next 32? And we want to put all that to bed right now. And 100%, boys, if y'all want back in the next 32, light it up. Send us, send an email to Joe and he can get you hooked up. And how he's going to have to work that may take a little massaging. So just get with Joe, and you guys want back in on the next set of 32, we can make it rock and roll.
I think, and I'll know for sure after I test everything out, I think they can actually just go in, log in, and then go to pay up again. And they already have an account at that point. They don't have to worry about doing that. So I'll try it out and make sure. If not, we'll figure it out. But yeah, if people want to get in the next 32 that missed that first one, they can absolutely do that, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, our guys were like, "Hey, man, this was so cool. I mean, can we get in the next set?" Even though we were in this first one, we're like, "Yeah, I mean, we hadn't really thought about that." So Joe and I and Guy and the rest of us talked about it last night, and we're like, "I think it's the right thing to do. You guys want in? Absolutely. Why are we, going to hold you out?" So
No, because as soon as we have 32 memberships paid up, we're drawing a hunt. So if we get 32 memberships in a week, we're drawing another hunt.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to talk about it, talk about the magnitude of that too, right? So it's a 1 in 32 odd,
Yep.
right? You're never going to see anything like that on an elk hunt of that value. The $10,000 elk hunt is really a $20,000 elk hunt if you look at the surrounding properties, right? And if you get in it 2 times, right? If you put in twice, you have hit the bottom of the barrel in terms of public land elk tags. That doesn't include your license. That doesn't include your travel, yada, 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 yada. Right? So 2 attempts for a $10,000 hunt and 1 in 32 odds is better than going and spending 7. So it's 685, I think, on the low end for a elk tag, all the way to $1,800 non-resident. Man, what a freaking value.
Hey, Joe, what's the deadline for if say this 32 comes in,
Mhm.
and then all right, so you're able to draw one, and that would be for this season. But when is the absolute hey, we only have until this time frame right here for it to happen this year?
Yeah. So any of the hunts, any drawings that happen before June 1, and that's because if there's going to be any coaching. Now, if there's not going to be any coaching, then there's a possibility it could still be after June 1 and be this year. So if we have somebody that's an archer, it's going to have to be, and when they win it, we'll determine by whatever their weapon is. If they're going to be an archer, they have to have drawn before June 1, because that's the thing about the Adventure Club, man. When you win a hunt, you're not just winning to go out and hunt. You're not just getting a tag and going hunting on your own. This is It's coached. You're receiving coaching from us and our materials months prior to get you prepared. And then you're coming and you're doing boots on the ground coaching and then in the field with one of our coaches. So now if they are a rifle hunter that is doing a later season hunt that's just a 5-day, they are still with one of our teaching guides. Nobody is ever by themselves. It's always an elevated experience with an ElkBros coach in some form or platform, right? So if they are a rifle hunter and they draw after June, they draw July or August, well, shoot, man, they're not going to be hunting until October, right? So,
Right.
or October, November, December. So we still have, they can still hunt this year. Now, let's say people have already drawn a tag and they're like, well, I don't want to put in because I don't want to have to hunt this year. No, man. If you draw this year, you already have a tag, you're booking your hunt for the following in 26, man.
Yeah.
You are already taken care of for next year. That's one thing off your plate. You know where you're going. We can get you prepared. We can do all of that, man, because yeah, it's like constant drawings for hunts, and it can happen this year, next year. It's not like you put in and you get one shot at it like a state does, right? Okay.
Right.
So
Yeah, you could put in multiple times and get drawn. I mean, and like Joe said, if it's past the deadline, we'll just extend it to the following year,
Yep.
So
So
we'll
is
be in
there,
pro-
so say we had 32 folks a month
Mhm.
for 10 months. We got 10 tags that are going to be handed out. on-
Absolutely.
100%. Yes, sir.
Right.
yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yep.
We could do 20. It
Yeah.
don't matter, guys.
And I tell you what, we end up filling up everything, all of our spaces, because we got to go according to availability, right? So if everything is filled up, man, we just book them for the following year,
Yeah.
right? So no matter what, a winner is going to get a hunt. They're going to get an ElkBros experience.
And it's transferable. If they can't use the
Yes.
hunt, then they can transfer it to their son, daughter, brother, mother, whatever, man.
That's a good, that's a good Father's Day gift,
Yeah.
Mother's Day
What?
gift, birthday gift.
My God.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh
I'd
man,
rather get that than a daggum stack of lottery tickets.
I could imagine my wife coming in and telling me, "I just won a $10,000 elk hunt," and I'm like, "What are you going to do with that?" "Whatever I want."
Mhm.
Yeah. And if you act right, I might take you with me.
You know what I mean, though? Like, hey,
Yeah.
Father's Day coming,
Yeah, for sure.
That's a great gift, man.
That'd be enough to put you back in the will.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sure
No
is.
doubt.
Especially if
Absolutely,
you
man.
win.
So yeah, so that last night was very, very cool, man. Randall Heath won it, and Randall
did.
was ecstatic, man. I mean, he
You could
was
see it on his face.
Oh
Yeah.
boy was trembling.
he,
They say he couldn't even type on his phone to get, his email to you or anything. So because we wanted it, I kind of had a little epiphany. I said, let's get that dude
Yeah,
on
that
the
was a good
line
idea. Mhm.
and let's have him, come in with us on the live YouTube deal. I think that's a cool thing to have happen, and he was gracious enough to do that. But he had hell trying to put the information in. He was
All we were seeing was I,
yeah.
yeah.
And then everybody was bagging on him, man, where's this guy live? We need to go hunt him up and stuff like that. So it was really cool, man. And look, I hate to be nostalgic or sentimental, but I'm gonna be, because this place, the Martinez Cow Camp, which is one of the properties that we've now got a lease on, this has been 10 years in the making that Joe and I have we've been praying on this and looking over the fence for 10 years, and hunting the fringes and doing the things that we do, man. But this is where I first grew up elk hunting. And when I say grew up, I was a grown man, 40 years old when I first started. And I didn't know jack crap about it. But Carl Gamage gave me my first elk hunt, and I've never looked back. I've not missed a year since that. This bull right here above me came from there, and many more like him came from there. And Carl passed away, and he lost his lease. And Joe and I went through it trying to get back to it. Many times not getting the opportunity. It just wasn't the right timing, was it, Joe?
No, it
And,
wasn't. And there's a reason for everything. And, we weren't matured enough in what we were doing yet for it to happen. It seemed like as soon as we were, it did happen. And here's the cool thing I want everybody to hear about this is I hunted the country around this for 30 some years, right? And I was 96% on public land around it. Now, a lot of people are like, well, God dang, man, there must be a lot of elk in there. Look, there's a lot of elk in New Mexico.
Yeah.
When I first started hunting that property over there, killing elk every year, it was an 8% success rate. And the reason I'm saying that is every time that we want to sell a hunt or we want to sell a tag, the first question I get from people is what's the success rate,
Yeah.
right? And I'm just telling you that success rates don't tell you anything about the quality of the hunt. It just tells you about the quality of the hunter. And, that's the public land surrounding this place. And, we hunted border areas of this property for how long, Gil? And,
Many
we
years,
were
10.
4 out of 5. We were 5 out of 6. We killed 4 bulls.
In one day.
Well, actually, those 4, that one year we went 4 bulls in 4 days.
Yes. Yeah.
And I mean, how often you hear that in an archery elk hunt, right?
Yeah. Joe and I killed 2 bulls in one morning.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, craziness.
Me and Chav in one morning. So it's really, and that's the thing I want to tell you is like everybody's like, oh God dang, I want to go hunt that unit. Let me tell you what, man. And people ask me, what unit should I hunt in New Mexico? And I'm like, get in a unit because the elk are there, and go hunt them because if there's elk in that unit, you can kill you one. And New Mexico, I believe that every unit that they sell elk tags in is a great unit, period.
Yep.
I mean, I've gone to other ones that I've gone and had a lot of success in there, but this is my backyard. It's easy and it's fast, right, for us. So if it's like that, that's why I'm just telling you, man, that take a look at our other property. And you look at our other property, and look at the country that's around that. You've got Vermejo Park. That is a $20,000 hunt, is our complete eastern border. You got the Poneal Ranch on that. That is a, $16,000 hunt?
Yeah. Yeah.
Above all, I mean, right in the middle of all of this, you have the Valle Vidal. And if you've never heard of the Valle, it is a once-in-a-lifetime hunt. It is epic elk hunting country in there that's in amongst all of these private ranches, right?
It's a once in a lifetime tag, right, Joe?
It
You can
is,
only draw
absolutely.
it once, out of state or in state, once at one time. It's the only
That's
time
it. So the quality of the elk in these countries, man, people are like, well, what's my opportunity like? No, and I have a hard time with that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, your opportunity is whatever you make it.
That's it, right?
Right. And that's I mean, we have lost, and I suck as a businessman because I'm an elk hunter, and somebody calls me up and they're like, well, I want to get this certain size bull. And I'm like, buddy, good luck. Go find you one.
My grandpa would say you can want in one hand and crap in the other one and see which one fills up faster.
Yeah, I'm not about inches. I'm not about fulfilling your inch fantasy. I'm about taking you out and having an incredible elk hunting experience.
Stop it, guy. Stop it, guy.
You can't take you anywhere.
Oh my God, man.
We're on the wrong podcast for that kind of stuff.
Don't be talking about inches.
This ain't Theo Vaughn's podcast, guy. We ain't on Theo Vaughn's podcast, bro.
We can bust out a Western commentary too.
Oh my goodness.
I was thinking something about to say something. I see Guy over there just going.
Oh, we just went over the edge, man. We might as well go to the ElkBros mailbox and get this started.
Well, look, I'm glad everybody got to hear, what went on last night, Joe. I wanted to put all those questions to bed, and it was an epic thing for us. And guys, we still have hunts available. I know Joe doesn't really like me pimping our ElkBros adventure, hunts and stuff like that, but we still have hunts available on both the Martinez and the Chase.
Well,
So
here's
guys-
what I want to tell you is I want people to have opportunities and experience this. And if you're not able to afford a private land coached elk hunt, well, join right in with me because I'm not able to. And that's why we created the Adventure Club, because through community, people can win a $10,000 hunt for $325 and get so much value from the coaching, from the teaching, from the webinars, from the discounts, from the free. We've already been giving free gear out. We do draws for that. And so it's not just like where you put in and you just whiff and your money is gone. We're trying to do something to create opportunity, and we don't have to do this. It is a lot of work, man.
Yeah.
But
Tremendous amount of
it's,
work.
you know, for me, I want people to experience this land of New Mexico, have the same experiences that I've been blessed to have. You know, Charlie's been over here. Charlie has killed an elk over in this country. Jeremy has killed an elk in this country. I love it, dude, when you do a video after you take one. It's like, well, it happened again. I just love it, man. You do a great job.
Capture all the memories fresh.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. So, to all y'all out there, I hope everybody gets a tag someplace. I hope you're having a great experience. If you haven't got one and you want to do something, come do it with us. I would love to share the passion. Okay. So
Absolutely.
there we go.
All right. ElkBros mailbox. Mr. Ross Fornaro from Hanover, PA. My question is, how do turkey hunters screw up elk hunting? They hunt turkey too. What tactics transfer and which don't? Other than scent, you're not getting off that easy. As I'm listening, elk hunting sounds a lot like turkey hunting. Is it, or am I missing something? Man, I call them elk birds, right? I mean, there's so many flipping similarities when it comes to those critters. I spot and stalk turkey. I do a little bit of calling just out of necessity, either to locate or to have them close the distance. What does that sound like? And the one thing I will say is, how did turkey hunters screw up? Is not understanding the elk stop and scan versus a turkey's caution point, right? I think they hold a different line as they're doing it. I would think that's the biggest mistake outside of carrying a turkey tag, being a turkey hunter in September. I'm not carrying another tag but an elk tag. Those turkeys distract you way too much, man.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest, in my head, the biggest would be, where that elk is going to stop and scan, make sure it's safe before he moves, any closer, and how a turkey approaches that. Outside of that, I think you hit it on the head, Ross, with the scent not being an issue.
But very close, man. And it's so funny. There's a lot of purists that are like, do not compare turkey hunting to elk hunting. And I'm like, man, but take a look at the strategies, take a look at the behaviors, and there's so many similarities. If you want to bring a tom in, bring his hens in, right? There's so many similarities to that. The decoying, the visualness of that, the auditory to the visual, that happens out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they could smell, we'd never kill one.
Yeah. And
One thing I would say,
go ahead.
That turkey hunters might screw up for elk is turkey. When you're locating them, you can get away with parking your truck, stepping out, and hitting your locator call and getting them to sound off. Elk are a little smarter than that. You better walk away from the truck or at least give it 20 minutes before you're trying to get them to pipe off.
So let me tell you a story.
You don't even have to do that, brother.
So me and Chav are going. We're going into the country. We're in what they say is a 2-track. We're coming in late at night, trying to get into a camp, and we're going on these roads that we had never been on before. And I mean, we get into a spot, we're almost into a dead end. I don't even know how I got there. And I'm like, where in the heck are we? So we get out of the truck. Truck is running. I get out. The door creaks, and I slam the door, and a friggin' bull screams at me from 50 yards. 50 yards, man. Because when they get to that point, when they get, and it's at night, which they're feeling a little bit different at night, right? It's they're feeling a little bit more sure of themselves, and which is something to remember too, man, that if you're locating, just like you put a turkey to bed, you put them to roost, you can do the same thing with elk. You can locate them at night. That way you can find them in the morning easier. You can do the same thing. But man, I've had elk walk by trucks, in front of trucks. So yeah, it kind of depends on the type of country you're in, Jeremy, whether
And where
it's
you're
high
at.
use country or low
Yeah.
use country and
Yeah.
things like that, right? And how much boogered those guys are. So
Yeah, when I killed my big bull, Joe, with Chav, we just shut the four-wheeler off and had probably 3 trucks and 2 4-wheelers
right
go
by.
right behind us. And we were listening to these bulls that were just across the fence. And we dove in across this little cross fence that was separating a pasture. We dove under the fence, maybe 60 yards. And when I arrowed that bull, I had 2 side-by-sides going in behind us, 60 yards from me. I mean, literally right behind us, and a truck that had stopped and bugled. And I don't know how they hear them bugles from where I was at. I mean, I wasn't 100 yards from them. And that herd of elk that we were calling to was probably 300 yards from us and bugling their fool heads off, right? So that truck and all of that commotion didn't bother those elk one bit,
Yeah. I mean, think
Um,
about that though. They're accustomed to it, right? I mean, it's not just hunting season that stuff's out there. You're
Right.
recreating year round,
yeah,
and they have those vehicles driving up them roads and them side by sides and whatnot, right? They're not,
yeah,
the pressure maybe getting out in that dark timber might push them, here and there, but man, they
yes,
hold.
yeah. Yeah, when they're in their higher pressure areas, they expect that. They listen to it every day. I mean, bed down right next to the roads,
I
you know.
I will tell you other thing they get accustomed to, I think, Jeremy, though, is man, I think they get used to calls coming from a road the whole
Yeah.
time. And
Mhm.
they hear it, but they don't respond to it. I think they get they get used to that happening and they know what's up with that. Right.
Creatures of habit. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been my experience. Yeah. Not that you can't get them to talk in a high use area, but be where they expect an elk to be, not where they expect a person to be if you want to get them to talk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Jeremy, what we were in was a rut. I mean, a big rut fest. There was a bunch of cows popping off, and them bulls. It didn't matter where they didn't know come here from Sikkim. At the end of the day, they were bugling their heads off because at they had a whole tribe of cows that were hotter than a pistol, and so that's what caught all that off guard. I don't think it would have mattered what we did. They were coming, to get after them cows that were hot. You know what
Well,
I
and
mean?
I'll tell you this too.
Mhm.
Bulls with the more competition they have, so the higher bull to cow ratio where there's a lot of bulls involved,
Yeah,
I think they act differently than when you have that young bull or that single bull that's got 3 cows, 5 cows, right?
yeah,
I think they're two different animals. And I think that, those bulls with multiple bulls around them get worked up to the point they sometimes don't even notice what in the heck's going on around there, right? I can tell you on the ranch that I guided on at Vermejo Park, you could drive a white truck up there and they'd just let you drive up to them because they're so used to seeing the gas trucks go
hmm,
back and
yeah,
forth all the time.
hmm,
Now as soon as the truck stopped,
yeah.
it's like, oh,
Mhm.
we have a problem here. But man, they'd just let you drive right by them.
I can't tell you how many times me and Carl drove up on elk in his side by side. I mean, just drove right up on them, and they look at us like a calf looking at a new gate. But the minute you stopped or got out, that was, they wasn't going to tolerate that.
Yeah. So
So,
no,
can I tell us a short story?
yeah,
I'll take it
absolutely.
for Gilbert.
Sure, sure.
So this is kind of funny. So I was taking my son-in-law on a turkey hunt this year, and he's relatively new to hunting, but he does like turkey hunting. And we'd been out once before, didn't have any luck, had a couple of mishaps, but so we went out again, and we were trying to beat a thunderstorm, and walked in, set up in the kind of this open. I said, I hope there were some birds down in this little draw. I hope that they'll come up. And so we sat down and I yelped a couple of times and didn't hear nothing. We're sitting there about 15, 20 minutes, hit it again. And I heard one, very far off. It kept answering, finally wound up coming in within about 15, 20 yards of me. And I mean, he made a perfect shot and just smoked it. And we got up and we were walking out, of course, high-fiving. I mean, he was pretty excited. I said, this is a little bit like elk hunting. I said, can you imagine, having a 750-pound animal come in 15 to 30 yards from you?
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he said, I'm just gonna be real honest with you. He said, I myself.
Many have.
Now here I gotta go. We got a new Manano on here. I'm gonna have to go edit myself.
You're gonna have to edit. Sorry.
Many have, man. I mean, I've been with guys and they just couldn't get it together. The first bull I ever shot at, he was at 19 yards and I shot him with my 40-yard pin because everything I learned about bow hunting run out of the crack of my tail end. I mean, it's just that freaking obscene. It's absurd when they're they come roaring up in there like a damn Tyrannosaurus Rex. Their eyes are bloodshot and they're peeing all over everything, right? And I ain't ever seen anything like that.
Drool hanging down, dripping down.
Yeah, oh, dude, eyes bloodshot red I had that bull bugle right in my face at 19 yards.
I think
oh my God.
If I had to look up at a turkey that was strumming at me, I might feel differently, right?
Yeah. Stonking around with had freaking spurs that long with razors on them or something. Yeah.
Hey, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Ross, such a good question, Ross. And
absolutely.
It's so many things apply.
Mimicry, yep.
There. Yeah. So that's a good one. I'll take the next one from Lee Alverson of Brighton, Colorado. And this was kind of cool because he said it was great to meet Gilbert and RC. He said RC Alverson was my grandfather's name. So he thought that was pretty special. He said it was great to meet you guys at the Mile Hunt and Fish Expo. I crack up when I hear Gilbert's similes. And I'm not even going to tell you, man. He said which one. I'm not even going to reinforce it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, brother. You couldn't make the podcast, huh?
We got to start a count on every podcast.
Also, I've been practicing with my new soloist and various reeds as often as possible. Attaboy Lee, man.
Yeah, man.
Question. He says, Onyx shows property boundaries and owner names. If someone has to retrieve an animal that crossed into private property, how does a person go about getting in touch with the property owner for permission when out in the forest? If you previously covered this topic, what episode can I find it on? And we have not, dude. So
great question.
Yeah, it's a very good question. And I'll tell you from my standpoint, right, is that you don't want to wait until you have an animal that goes onto private property.
That's right.
Then it's going to be a nightmare. If you're going to be hunting near any private property, then you need to go on, because what Onyx will show you a lot of times is, and it's not always correct because changes can happen, right? But it can show you the property owner, and sometimes it can give you some information so that you can then go search out that property owner, because sometimes it'll just be a company name. Sometimes it'll be a trust.
Holding.
Yeah, a holding. So you actually
that
need...
makes it easier. Sorry,
What's that?
go ahead.
Go ahead.
That stuff makes it easier, right? Because it's a quick Google search, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Give you a tax address.
Yep.
Point being, you got to do your homework ahead of time, right?
Definitely.
Or you do like Joe does and you just sneak over at night and get it.
Oh, man.
So it's really about getting to know you.
On that $10,000 hunt, man. That's all night ops.
And so I like
really
to contact everybody and create a protocol with them, right?
Yeah.
So, if I have something that goes on your place, I want to make sure I have protocol and permission, because you're not always going to get permission. And some of those people are going to say, if it comes over, don't call me. I mean, that can happen. So you got to be ready.
It has happened.
Yeah. And so what I want to tell you is this: now you have more knowledge to work with. So if that's the knowledge that you have, you had better be sure that you're not waiting at a fence for an animal to come over before you shoot it, because one of the habits of elk is when they go to retreat, when something happens, they will go back the way they came. That is the safest route that they know of, right? So if you have an animal that comes over and he comes 20 yards over a fence line and you shoot and hit that animal, he is going to turn and go back the way he came, right? So
Most of the time.
most of the time, yes. If you know that knowledge, then what you can do is you can ensure that you're trying to pull that animal 200 yards, 300 yards away from that fence line so that you can put a killing shot on that animal and put them down within 20 seconds.
Sometimes that's not enough.
No,
Sometimes,
right.
Sometimes that's not enough. It's just
It is
going to happen.
correct.
So, like Joe said, just do your due diligence. This bull right here above me, I mean, we shot him good, and he, we were probably how far, Joe, from the
Well,
fence line?
we were probably maybe 150.
Yep.
No?
Yep.
Probably.
And we got one lung in the liver, and he was able to get up. We knocked him down out in the middle of a big field, and he got up with a broke leg and ended up falling over a fence. And then he didn't go 60 yards past that fence, and he bed down.
Right.
And because we never pushed him, we sat right there and let it get dark on us, and we got the heck out of Dodge. We knew that he was hit really well, and he was hit, multiple times. So the cool thing is Joe and Carl Gamage had already done due diligence and called the landowner and had the guy said, look, all you got to show me is blood on your side, babe, and then we're going to help you go find your bull.
Yeah. There was already a protocol established before it ever happened. Right. So we already knew that hunting the fence line, if something happened between the properties, it wasn't going to be an issue. Right. Yeah. So, yeah.
So, Joe, I got a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
So your Fish and Game, right? Always a great resource.
Yep.
If you got, cell service to pick up local outfitters, local, mom and pop kind of pro shop, hunting shop, archery shops are a big deal. And then even local general stores, gas station type deals.
Mm-hmm.
Had a situation, I don't know, seemed like it's been 4 or 5 years ago now, seen a guy muzzleloader a bull, and I watched the bull go over and told him, hey, go run down here to the gas station general store, and it was actually an outfitter that owned that place, and he was able to get the property owner on the phone and get them access. So, like Joe said, do the due diligence, but when in doubt, head to town and start asking around, right? Most people are going to help you and get on the phone with your local warden.
Yep.
On the other side of that, there is a strategy. Even if you think that it's running back that safe direction, bark, get its attention, slow it down, right? Don't just think it's all done. Don't go chasing. Throw some barks at it, get it confused, and get it to turn around and stop, and maybe you can get that bull turned back around with a little comfort, right? He spooked for whatever reason. So
100%, man. If you can cow call, bugle, anything that's going to stop him so that he stands there and dies, it is a great strategy. Absolutely.
Yep. Great question, Mr. Lee.
On this next one, it's not a question, but I had to include this. This email was from Jordan Mifflin from Williston, North Dakota.
Williston, North Dakota, man. I spent a bunch of time in that place. Goodness.
I wanted to let you and the guys know that I was successful in my Montana elk application. I can't wait to get out there and create an opportunity on a bull elk. I've been working over a year for this opportunity. By the way, he has emailed us multiple times on how he's already using our academy, listening to the podcast and things like that. So he says, I'm down 62 pounds from this time last year, and I'm about to ramp up my hiking, so I'm even more prepared for the mountains. The ElkBros podcast has given me a lot of confidence to take this first step on my first elk hunt, and I can't thank you guys enough for what you do. And
wow, what a review.
Yeah.
That's awesome to the club, brother.
Yeah,
keeps us. That's what we do this for, man. Look, elk hunting's hard. Elk hunting's hard, man.
Look at the impact on that life, though, man. And you ain't even hit the mountain yet.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That dude is down 62 pounds.
His life's better.
Jordan, you just increased your lifespan by 10 years, and you just increased your life happiness and experiences exponentially by the things that you're able to do.
Yeah,
I'm so proud of you.
You're gonna get to stay on the face of this earth and piss a whole lot more people off, brother. So that's a good thing.
That's awesome.
Phenomenal. Thanks so much for sending that in, Jordan. I mean, that means the world to us. This is why we do it, man. We love to elk hunt, don't get me wrong, and we love to be with one another in elk camp, man, but we really have a passion of sharing this with everybody and helping guys become better versions of themselves and better elk hunters, better fathers, better friends, the whole 9 yards, man, paying it forward.
Yep.
You know what time it is? It's time for our ElkBros shout outs. If you're new to our show, this is just shout out to our following from our few cities with the most listeners topping our charts this week, Joe.
Yeah, so first up, before Guy takes over with our top listening city, if you want to get entered, man, we've got we've got a few names on the list. I'm waiting until we pile it up. I want to give some stuff away on the Spin a Winner giveaway, man. We've got some stuff. I'm thinking of even doing a soloist tube with some calls there. So if you want to get in that, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or give us a comment on our YouTube channel. But listen, and I'm a teacher coach, man. If I put a condition, I ain't going to go halfway. You got to do it, right? All you got to do is put your name and where you're from. And I've got guys that have entered like 50 times already, still put their name, still put where they're from. So I want other people to see that. What's that?
You can't not do it. I mean, think of the value you get when that Spin a Winner wheel goes, man.
Absolutely, dude. Look at the guys last night. They got some cool stuff. You know, Bart Kane, TJ Meyer. I mean, they're going to have some cool stuff headed to them.
Yep. So
they need to send me an email or a DM. I'm going to be giving that away again.
Yeah, Doc Kane sent me an email or a text today. Guy, I gave him your contact info.
Cool. Okay. All right, Guy. You're
all right, here we go. Today's top listening city was originally called Clam River, and the village was renamed in 1896. If you're visiting, go check out the music and meat raffles at Sweeney's Bar on the smothered steaks sandwiches or broiled cod at the Shop Bar and Grill, Webster, Wisconsin.
Webster, Wisconsin. Yeah.
Man.
What, you got a thing against broiled cod, bro?
Oh, dude, I'm not a fan of cod unless it's fried.
Oh, man, I love cod, man. Yeah, let me have it.
Codfish.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
out. Chips.
I'm out. Yeah, give me some crappie.
Dude, I'm going to Sweeney's because I got to see me a meat raffle. I got to see what that.
You've never been to a meat raffle?
Charlie, hold me back. Here he goes with the meat thing again.
Here he goes. Rattling off meat and stuff, man.
Oh,
goodness.
Well, Jeremy's even jumping in on a meat raffle.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, man. I can't wait.
You better say elk steak or broiled cod, bro.
Broiled cod.
It's like traveling with the seventh grade class, man.
Great, brother.
Jeremy, you're up.
Next top listing city began as Boone's Landing in 1846, established by Alfonso Boone, grandson of Daniel Boone. He initiated the Boone's Ferry across the Willamette River. Henry Thomas, best known for his role in Elliot in E.T. the Extraterrestrial, lives here as well. And that is in Wilsonville, Oregon.
Wilsonville.
PNW.
So
one of the more beautiful states anyone could ever travel to.
Agreed.
And to be one of the last with OTC elk tags too. Archery.
Yeah, that's
no kidding. Oregon still has OTC stuff, huh?
On the coast.
On the coast. Gotcha.
So
are those Rosies?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Do you remember E.T., Jeremy?
Yeah, I just caught that. Yep.
E.T. phone home.
Yeah, man, that was like the movie. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I watched that movie like 2 months ago. Sat there like I was in sixth grade.
Was that the first time you'd ever seen it?
No.
Okay.
I saw it on and I decided I'm gonna watch this. I don't watch much TV, but E.T. was on, man.
Was that a Spielberg movie?
It is. Yeah. Yes, sir.
There you go. I mean,
one of his big ones, man. Yeah.
Hard to miss one of his movies, right?
Yep.
All right, guys.
I will say when I saw it, it looked like an old movie to me when I saw it the first time. So.
So you bashing on Guy? You bashing on
That's right. We're catching camp, man. We got a 20-foot container sitting on the ranch now, buddy.
We can lock him in there, huh?
Cage match.
Cage match.
No, I'm gonna just lock you in and walk away.
Yeah. When you get as old as us, bro, we don't fight fair. We just fight, you know, at the end of the day. Guys, this next top listening city is originated in BB's Corner in 1830, serving as a carriage stop between Detroit, Michigan, and Utica, and later produced a quarter of the U.S. Sherman tanks during World War II and the M1 Abrams tank until 1996 in Warren, Michigan, just north of town there in the big town of Detroit.
Oh, where's that on the hand, man?
So it's about right there, Joe.
Okay, man.
About right.
The fatty part right there, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Warren, Michigan, man. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Charlie Daniels.
All right, y'all ready? Our last city is a shout out to listener Sean Segrist. His hometown averages 2,121 hours of sunlight annually, making it the sunniest city in eastern Canada. Paul Schaefer, the renowned musician, former band leader for The Late Show with David Letterman, hails from Sean's hometown, Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada.
Ontario, Canada, up north.
How does that 21 hours of sunlight compare to anywhere else? I have no idea.
I don't
Me
either.
Sounds like a lot.
It sounds impressive, though.
Doesn't sound like it rains much there.
And Sean Segrist, I want you to hear your name. I'm saying it again, man, because Sean said in an email and said, would you give my town a shout out? Because I don't think we'd ever be on the top listening, and I'd appreciate a shout out. So there you go, brother.
There you go, man.
All right. Guy, what's going on now?
Main content.
I love it, man.
Perfect, man.
All right, so main content for tonight, guys, is calling strategies when elk goes silent. And the whole look, as a coach and as a guide and as a hunter, you know, for me, there's a way that I see, hear, smell, and understand things around me when I elk hunt. But when I take other people that go out, I get to realize a lot what it is that they are looking for or what they're not looking for. And I'm telling you that most hunters' elk strategy absolutely depends on them seeing or hearing a bull, mostly bugles. They are bugle oriented. If they don't hear bugles, then they are lost, man. So what strategies do they have when they're not seeing or hearing them? You know, what is their takeaway? What is their plan B, their plan C, right? Etc. So that is what I want to that's what I want to talk about tonight. And I want people to understand, because guys, you guys have all been out there. It seems like it used to, you know, I used to hear everybody say that, you know, elk were quiet early in the beginning of the season. But man, we've had guys out there the 18th, 19th, 24th.
I ain't talking.
Nothing's talking, right? So is this just an early season issue?
No.
I'm gonna say no because I was reading how many hours of sunlight through these different cities. So,
I'm still on that too, guy. I have
80?
8,760 in a year. So
well, there's a chart. Sorry, Joe. There's a chart here, so I'm gonna roll up here.
Hey, your
So let's
podcast has been hijacked.
see, Albuquerque. So Albuquerque gets 34.15 is the average a year here.
Look at him.
Where am I at?
Yeah,
I told you he was a little ADD, Joe.
Yeah, I know, man. I know.
It's all good,
Dude,
brother.
I had to scratch the itch. I
Hey,
had to
trust and verify. You just got to verify.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm verifying.
Chat GPT.
You think the listeners didn't want to know this information?
That's right.
After we read that?
So this is an exact behavior of elk, man. They have to see to believe, right?
They do.
That's it, buddy.
They have to verify. So I just took that over back into the elk world. So my question was, you know, when we talk, most people say that elk are not bugling at the beginning of September. I differ. I beg to differ.
Yep.
Right? Okay.
Seen it the day before September.
Mm-hmm.
Day before September 1st.
There's been plenty of time, man. I pull up and set up in camp, and they're bugling like crazy. And I get out on opener, and you can hear a mouse fart.
Yeah.
Everything is done.
Piss on cotton from 1,000 yards.
That's it. Yep.
And
Mr. Larry and I were
there
surrounded on September 2nd last year.
blowing
Yes, we
up,
were.
right? Yeah. Why is that? What causes elk to bugle and scream like that?
A rut.
Not
What causes a
necessarily.
rut?
A cow going into heat.
There you
Yes.
go, man. All it takes is one, man. A cow comes in heat, them bulls go nuts, and they're going to start screaming. But you
What-
got to well, go ahead, Guy.
Clarify that, right? Because I don't want folks listening to think that that's the only time that a bull's going to bugle.
No.
Is
No.
when they're
A lot of
it's
times
not.
they're locating,
No.
you know, they're
Yeah.
they're social critters. They want to be around, but there'll be times when they do that early in the morning, right? Late in the evening when they're on moving from bedding to feeding areas and stuff like that, announcing their presence. I'm not saying that they won't do it all the time, but systemically when they do it, they got a reason for doing it, you know.
But they're
Generally, it's
advertising,
because-
right? They can be
Yes.
advertising themselves as they're looking to pick up cows. They're basically going, "Blah blah, here I am. Blah, here I am."
And it'll get more frequent when you have cows in heat, right? But leading up to that, it's as infrequent as it needs to be, right, in the area. But you can be, like Joe and I've done this many times. We could be 2 ridges over, and it's quiet as a church mouse. Drop off into a little bottom, and all of a sudden it's lit up like a Christmas tree. Bulls going, and you walk through the woods, and you know, after that hunt, and guys are like, "Man, it's been so quiet. We ain't heard anything." And we're like, "Yeah, us either. We ain't heard nothing."
What was that?
You know, at the end, do what?
No, go ahead. Sorry. That's
No, we just guys will be like they weren't in that drainage. They didn't hear those bulls, right? And people say, well, you know, they project a long way. Yeah, in places they do, but let it be high pressure in the middle of it, you know, on a real high pressure day, and that sound won't carry at all. I mean, literally, be 400 yards from you, you're not hearing that bull, right? Especially during the high pressure.
Well, here's the thing. Joe and I had some discussion about this, and it's not that the high pressure is affecting the sound. It's our perception of the sound and the effect of the pressure on our ears. That
I'm talking barometric pressure. I'm not
no,
talking
that's what I'm
about.
telling
Yeah,
you. That's
yeah,
what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Joe and I have been on this one for what 2 months now.
Yeah.
I'll call Joe. I have some animals out here, and I'm like,
The
you know,
denser
look at
the air,
bar.
the denser
Yeah.
the air, the more difficult for the sound, right? So
Travel, yeah, yeah.
but
And that's what I'm talking about.
yeah, but it just comes down, and that's why I said, you know, are they really being silent? Is it them? Is it us? Is it the terrain? Is it the vegetation? Is it time of day? It could be any of these.
Or all. Yeah.
Right?
Or all of those things.
Yeah. It could be that you're not in the right place at the right time. It could be that you've got terrain that is filtering, that's causing, it's just like that thickness in the air that's diffusing that sound. You can have that going on, you know. You can have the hills that's not allowing the sound to get over.
Yeah.
And it you know, they are bugling, they are making noises, and sometimes it's not always bugles. Sometimes they're just chuckling, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it just, there's a lot of reasons for that.
One of the biggest bulls Joe ever called in for me, we had eyes on him from about, 350, 400 yards, Joe? We got in 53. I mean, a toad of a bull. I mean, a really big bull. We were behind him. It's probably the only time in my life that I was able to not necessarily keep up with Joe, but Joe didn't run off from me. And we actually caught that bull going up the side of a mountain. Now, it wasn't a real big one, but he was going up the side of we call it a hill. I won't even call it a mountain, but he was going up the side of this ridge, right? And we got down in a little traverse and beat feet.
You go there.
and beat feet as fast as we could go. Listen, man, I was dying.
Shots,
right?
shots. There's the Trinache. We got to take shots.
Yeah. And we got in behind that bull and actually got to his downwind side and got up even with him. And we had eyes on him at first. He never said a word. He never bugled. He never, you never heard his cows calling or anything. And we had been bugling and cow calling when we got into that area. It's a big open area, right? But when we spotted him, he was up next to the trees. So up next to the side of the ridge, and man, he was just meandering. He wasn't like hauling butt with his cows or anything. They were just kind of feeding along. and Joe and I got off to that downwind side of him. And before you knew it, Joe actually called the cows off of him to us by mimicking another bull, right? We couldn't get him to answer. We couldn't get him to bugle back at us, anything. It was dead silent. I mean, like really, we're like, man, this is horrible. They're not even saying a word. They were coming the whole time. We just didn't know it, right? And before you know it, Joe looks down and there's 4 cows walking up below us, and the bull's actually ahead of us. He's kind of come around the top of us, and he's dropping right in. Well, I had him at 12 yards, and it's like this, man. But I needed about 3 feet, and I was trying to lean, and I knew better. Because when you lean, you're going to change your whole daggum anchor point. So I just sat in there. I said, look, I need 1 step. As soon as he steps in there, I'm going to send this thing, and it's going to be great jubilation. Well, what we didn't know is when Joe turned around, look, this calf come walked right up to him, sniffed his elbow. I mean, that's how close they got to us and how cool Joe was sounding. And he and I both were going back and forth, sounding like a few elk, cow, calf. And that's what created all the atmosphere. But Joe never introduced a bull till it got like when we got up in there in the thick of it. And that's because we weren't hearing anything or seeing anything, And when he introduced the bull, that separated the cows from the bull. And that's kind of the reason why he came down in there going, all right. And he never said a word until he walked in there. And it was just, that was it. I mean, he never even, he never bugled or anything. He just growled. And he was a huge drop time bull, probably 360 plus, right? I mean, an absolute tank. But that bull never said a word. And I think a lot of times they don't say anything because they don't want to lose what they got, So I think a lot of times those bulls stay silent, and you can't make them pop off because they don't want to advertise that they're there and they've got other cows there.
He wasn't defensive enough.
Right.
I think a lot of people they expect that they're going to get a bugle back, whether it be location, this high pitched, beautiful 3-tone note. And I mean, I've just found where most of the times I'll just get, or,
Come
that's
on.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's short and you ain't prepared for it. You're like, wait a minute, was that what I think it was?
Yeah.
And then, you're kind of questioning yourself, and then you realize, well, holy crap, that was.
Yeah.
So,
The first bull I called in for Cookie this year, it was dead quiet. We could hear a few bulls way off in the distance. And I was just, cow calling. It was the first day I was with him. And I was cow calling, kind of showing him how I do things, walk 30 feet, set for 3 minutes. And cow call and just look. 1 cow call every now and then. And we're just glassing and looking. And we decided, well, we're going to turn around because the wind got wrong. We're going to turn around and sashay to our right and get into the wind and go right up this little drainage. And so when we made that turn, all of a sudden, yeah, well, this was a drainage. It wasn't a trenasse. It was actually, it leaded up to something. A trenasse leads down to something, okay? So the drainage led us up, right? So we were actually easing up that drainage, and I hear, and I mean, he barked at us like, oh my God, he's wanting us to sound off where we're at. He knew we were there the whole time, but he goes, and I froze, and I told Cookie, I said, oh my God, dude, he's right there.
I gotta stop you, Gil, because there's too much going on here that people need to learn about, because
Gotcha.
This is what we're talking about right here. Right. So first of all, I want to talk about what you guys were doing as you were moving, which we liken that to chumming, right?
Yes, sir.
When we're moving along and we're sounding like cows, one of my favorite things to do is get on elk trails where I got sign as I'm moving through and throwing out a cow call here and there, stopping and listening, but throwing those cow calls out there, chumming, putting bait in the water, man, to start bringing those elk to you. And then I want you, when they turned around, basically they gave it the time, turned around, that bull never heard him chum anymore for a while there. And so that bull did the same thing that we do as humans. So let's say that you get a bull to sound off and you're like, okay, that bull's in that direction. Boom, I'm taking off and I'm cutting the distance and I'm getting in there. But I'm like, sometimes, and this is pre Onyx, right? This is, and sometimes, like I learned to do it with a compass. I'd get a bearing on where that animal was, right? Because as you're closing the distance, you go around rocks, you go around trees, you go up and down hills, you can lose that direction. And then what happens when you lose that direction? You get there and you stop and look, at that point, you have turned, you're doing the same thing an elk does.
Yeah.
You're stopping and you're listening. You're trying to identify. You're hoping to hear another elk sound so you know which direction so you can go to it. And if you hear that sound, you're going to go to it. You're not going to make a sound. You're just going to go to it, right? But what if you don't hear that sound? What are you going to do, Jeremy, if you're there, you know that elk is someplace in there and you don't know which direction to go? What are you going to do?
Well, what I used to do is just keep plowing forward until I see a white butt running away from me.
That's that hope and hike, right?
Yeah.
But now, no, I'm going to get in front of some cover, and I'm just going to softly call and then wait until something happens. Make sure I keep the wind right from where I think he is, but I'm just going to look.
But you're going to make a sound, right? You're going to make a
Yes.
sound and hope that the first thing that, and this is everybody else, when the first thing they're wanting is they want that response so now they can peg where it's at and they can go to it. Okay, that's the same thing that bull did to Gilbert. That bull was coming in to that bait, to that chum he was putting out. They'd no longer called, and that bull was like, I know. And then they're walking. So when they're walking, there could be sounds that happen as well, right?
Kicking rocks, kicking stuff. So he's thinking there's a herd of elk over there, right?
Yeah, and
now he's going to announce his presence,
And he doesn't have to do it with a loud bugle, man.
Nope, he didn't.
No.
Just a, woof. I mean, it was just that, hey, look here.
Here I am.
Coming into the set. Yeah, because see, I had never introduced a bull. It was only cow sounds. I'd never introduced a bull yet. So that made him feel safe coming on over that there was just a cow party going on up there. But I'd never bugled or anything yet, It was early in the morning.
And I can tell you this, that bull, when he hears other cows at that particular time of year, is going to do the same thing a human does. You're going to hear this over and over. He's assuming that there's a bull with that group, and he's going to come in sometimes a little quietly. Now, if he hears another bull, he's going to stay silent as he moves in so he can see the competition. Unless he's the biggest, baddest dude around, and he's
right? Warm, and he's hot. He's warmed up, right?
But if there's no bulls bugling, if there's cows and there's no bulls bugling, there is no hot cow. Right? He's not going to go bust his butt over a herd, just to 10 cows that there's no cow in heat. He'd rather stay off. They are not going to expend energy during the rut that they don't have to. Now, the younger bulls are going to go in and go, yeah, whoa, I'm the herd bull. I got me some gals, and they're going to start tending. And you get that same opposite effect. In the beginning of the season, you get younger bulls that herd up those cows to play the part until things start going and they get pushed out. At the end of the season, when the big bulls are pretty much wasted and they peel off, those younger bulls go right in to do the same thing again. They just want to act the part, right? And those other bulls will go into the wings until they hear the fact that there's a cow that comes in heat. All right. But I had to do that, Gil, because you're telling
it's all good, brother.
Dude, in the story, and it tells so much in there that a lot of people don't get, right?
You learn, Cookie learned so much in those 7 days. I mean, the guy's actually calling in bulls himself by the end of it, using mimicry and everything else, right? He really picked it up well. And I just proved to him that we were in an area that had him, and it didn't matter whether they weren't talking. We were still going to do what we did and get them interested in coming to find us. Joe said this a million times, a big game of hide and seek. You got to hide and they got to seek, right? Jeremy, how many times have you been in the woods and you've had a call session and you stand up to leave and you blow them up? They're already coming. You just didn't wait long enough, right? I think everybody here, I think everybody here's done it. But I mean, how many times have you seen that happen to yourself? You just didn't wait long enough.
That's one of the things that's just like turkey hunting. Yep.
Yeah.
You stand up just 5 minutes too soon, and then they're right there. They were right there the whole time. But Either you didn't wait long enough, you weren't looking close enough, you didn't expect them to come in, so you weren't looking for a foot, you were listening for a bugle or looking for a rack, and there they go.
Guy, how
You don't
many
even have
times
to
is
stand up. You can just simply move your foot about 3 inches and they'll blow out.
yeah. Guy, how many times has that happened to you where you've been in the woods and not only did they come up silent, but they came in downwind. They came in from your downwind side and not your
I'm not sure if you
wind side.
stepped away for a second or not,
Oh,
but
gotcha.
yeah.
Charlie, have you had that happen where they come? I've had it actually happen where they came in on my downwind side. Nobody's looking behind us.
Yeah,
'Cause we're,
nobody's
you know,
looking behind you.
Yeah, we're not looking
Yeah.
behind us. But nowadays, when we call, because it's happened to me, we have to look from our downwind side
Yeah.
because they could be circling, circling, circling. And just when they get to your downwind side, you've got something pushing the wind, from them, so they never pick it up. I've had them walk right. I've had them with me and Brendan and Luis. We've been standing there calling, and everybody's calling out in different direction, and then all of a sudden we turn around to get ready to leave, and there's a bull standing 60
there.
yards from us looking at us, man,
Yep.
right behind us.
So again, critical lesson here, right? So we've got to get, the whole purpose of this is to give you guys something when you're not seeing or hearing elk, because for whatever reason, that they're silent, they're being silent at that point in time. So you have to have a plan B. And what I want to do and what we want to do is talk about what our plan Bs are in something like this. And you already heard one. Okay. So here's the deal. Here's how you've got to reassess and change things. If you are not seeing elk, if you don't have an open type area where you can really glass a lot of country early in the morning or late in the evening or at midday, if you don't have that luxury where you're at, and there's some country better and worse for that. And you guys that are in northern Idaho, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The country that I like to hunt, man, if I'm at 10 o'clock looking down into meadows and looking for elk in those meadows, I'm just burning my time. Right? Because they're not going to be there at that time of day. That's not where it's going to happen. I don't like to be that person. Now, early in the morning, if I'm at a place and I can look at something right at gray light and try to find those critters before, and I have that opportunity, well, cool. But what if you can't see? What if you're not seeing? And what if you're not hearing? So what are your strategies? And here's the other thing I got to tell you. Number one, you got to use your other senses. And you got to start locating the elk instead of by having to hear that bugle or having to see them down in park. You got to start using the sign. You got to start using the smells. You got to start working the features. So you got to get in the places, in those transitions, in those areas that are going to funnel elk. And you got to locate track. You got to find the places where they're feeding. You got to find the places where they're drinking. Locate track. You've got to go to the muddy spots on roads. You got to go into that 2/3 area up where they're going from bench to bench and locate track. And then once you do that, you start reverse engineering, okay? Reverse engineering and walking their hallways. These are their roads. And then while you're doing it, our first scenario we use, you heard Gilbert using it, we're chumming. We are throwing calls out all the time, because if you don't give sounds out, then you're just a fart in the wind, all right, moving through the forest. All you are is a scent. That's all you are. And the only thing you're going to do with your scent is get busted with it. The only thing you're going to do with your movement is get busted with it. So if you're just hiking and hoping, most likely if you see an elk, they've already seen you first, most likely. So, and there's going to be a lot of elk you're not going to see. Now, does that happen when you're calling? Sure it does. There's so many elk that see you before you see them, and you think there's no elk in the woods. But if I'm not calling, then I am not creating the atmosphere of elk doing elk things that other elk can come to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I want to expand off of what you said. Just because an elk sees you doesn't mean that they're going to be that it's over, man. I can tell you 100%, they gotta see you and smell you to Katie bar the door, right? If they just see you, they're curious, man. They're a real curious animal. And if you can hunker down, and then can't tell you how many times I've had bulls in the set and they know exactly where I'm at. They're looking right through me. And it's just important that you calm them down and make them feel like there's other elk nearby. And when they feel that way, they're going to come investigate it. I'm telling you, Chav and I've had bulls at 12 feet. 12 feet from us, man, and had a barrier between us at 12 feet, and I needed to get him over the barrier, right? Those bulls would walk to within 12 feet from us and move to within 30 yards, 12 feet, 30 yards. I mean, and it's this constant back and forth, but it's because I would turn my tube, which makes the soloist it's such an important part of what we do. We talked about it at the expo, and what really separates us from other elk hunters, it's with the solos, because I can manipulate that sound behind me or
Absolutely.
around the side of me, right? They will never know I'm exactly right there. They will hear it behind me, and it's very, very low sounding calls that are it just settles them down. Mews, a little bit of a calf call. Anytime bulls are really disturbed, a calf call will settle them down, because they know calves are around cows, right? So you can really settle them down, especially if they get a little jinky or they get a little whiff from the gods. I mean, at the end of the day, just because they see you, it's not over with. Just understand that, man. If you can get them to be curious, and Joe uses a decoy, and we all use our decoys and stuff. When they see that decoy, now they're even more curious, man. So just because they're not talking and they're not vocal, and they see you moving through the woods, doesn't mean they associate that with danger. Does that make sense, Joe?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's just like, even if you have a bull coming into you and you haven't been able to draw, and that bull's coming, he's 30, that bull's coming, he's 25, now he's 20. In your mind, you'd be telling yourself, I'm going to draw, right? And that bull's going to react to you drawing. And it depends if he's coming straight at you, if he's going across, it depends. But the closer he is to you, the more he's going to respond to put space between movement that he doesn't know what it is. Yeah. So it's a threat. He's going to put space between the threat and himself, and then he's going to stop and look back to see what that is. So, that bull can be 20, 25 yards out. You can move, and all he's going to do is stop and turn because he has the space. And he's going to identify what that possible movement or threat is, and then he's going to react from there, right?
Yeah.
So, but if he's 5 yards, 10 yards, and you move on him, he's going to jump out, but he is going to stop and turn because he's got to know, do I need to turn and defend myself, or do I need just to get out of dodge, right? He's going to try to...
About the only time they won't stop is if they smell you.
Oh yeah, no.
If they smell you, it's over.
Yeah,
it's over, man. I've never been able to stop one that smelled. Well, of course, I didn't ask them, did you smell me? I mean, they just run out of my life. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I did see how they react to smelling us, right? And it's only because I've been stalking in on a bull and have the wind in my face and could see the lead cows that he was with. They're just munching away, eating and stuff like that. And then RC grabbed me by my backpack and stopped me. And I mean, we're 95, 100 yards from the bull, and he stops me, and then the little puffer, the scent goes right by us. I stood there. He goes, oh man, we're screwed. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, look at the way the chalk's going. It's going right to him. The lead cow, she's about 135 yards from us. She never even looked in our direction. She picked her head up, looked like this, and boom, took off as fast as she could roll, man. She never looked in our direction or anything. Yeah. So that just tells you, when they smell you, bro, you ain't even gonna know they were there. Had I not had eyes on them, I'd have never known those elk were even in the country. Right?
Absolutely.
So that's how important the sniff and the smell part is. But man, we can fool their ears and we can fool their eyes day in and day out.
So, Guy, what is your plan B when you've got silent elk and you're not seeing anything?
Lick my wound.
Lick my wound.
Man, Joe, for me, it's I'm gonna just keep putting on the miles, man, and I'm gonna pull out the glass. I mean, that's in a nutshell. You know me and glass, right? If it's dead silent, I'm not in them. You know, my air quote honey hole isn't producing anything for whatever reason. Just like you're saying, I'm gonna get on that track. I'm gonna figure out, you know, what hallway they took to what bedroom, and I'm gonna just keep moving. I gotta be where they're at. And
Oh,
then if it's really bad, sorry, go ahead.
no, all right. So a real critical point that you just said is that you got to be where they're at, right? Now, that perception can mean a lot of things, right? Are you in the same drainage, or are you in the same area, or people can perceive that in different ways, and that's why for this, here's what the gift that I want to give people, all right, for their plan B, is that just like you, bulls are looking and listening for other elk to give away their locations. They want to hear elk doing elk things, and that will motivate them to go in. That's what they're doing, the same thing. They are hunting each other the same way we do. It's just that they live in the place and they know where the haunts are. They're better with the smells, they're better with the ears, they have all of that, right? But they are doing the exact same thing we're doing. So here's the thing. Remember, the key is that they are looking and listening for elk to give away their locations. So what I do is
Give them that.
where Gil and where Guy says, I need to be where they are, right? What I want to do is I want to create those elk doing elk things, or build a scenario, create and draw a picture, give those reasons that other elk now hear something, and then they start coming to me.
Yep.
They start looking for me instead of me having to look for them. Now, sometimes, and there's reasons why you would do each, but I'm going to give you a couple scenarios is what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw out the scenarios. Gil talked about one, the chumming, right? So when I say chumming, what am I talking about? Well, when I'm chumming, I am creating a scenario of either multiple cows moving,
Yep.
or
Calf.
I'm creating a scenario of a cow and calf moving, and I'm using my tube, I'm using directional, I'm using volume to create the illusion, because like Gil said, to make it real, you don't always seem like it's just from one spot. You want to throw it to different ways. So it's like, I'm throwing in different directions. Now, for y'all's purpose, I'm doing a whole lot of multiple different calls. Sometimes I'm doing that. Sometimes it's a rhythm of just, yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's just one. And I let it marinate as I'm moving. I want to sound as natural as the elk moving through the woods, but I want to give a sound for them to locate, all right? That's what we call chumming. I'm just putting bait out there so that any elk within a certain distance that hears me starts to come to me. All
And
right.
it's important not to overdo it. It's important to not to overdo it, man.
You don't have
And
to, man.
you don't have to. And when I mean by overdoing it is constant mirror, 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 mirror,
Right.
mirror. You have to sound like a natural herd of elk moving, right? And it's not so
Not a hoochie mama. It's
yeah,
not.
yeah. And it's not the same tone and the same cadence every time, right?
Now,
It's
there is a scenario that we do where we do
Yes.
get obnoxious like
Yeah,
that, do
loud-
it like when we're doing a
a
lost cow or lost
Yeah,
calf,
yeah.
right? Okay. So
That's after we've already engaged, right? And sometimes it's just broadcasting that there is a cow that's lost, and sometimes that makes all the difference to a bull.
because
So-
you can get loud with it and you can
Yes.
throw it out there and they hear that, and it can pull other cows to you, which are going to bring bulls to you sometimes, right? So
I remember one year Joe and I were hunting together, and that was really the only thing that we could get bulls to respond to was the lost cow call. Last year for me, it was that little bull hoot, right? That little, And I mean, they would all just blow up around us, you know. And I mean, you could make everything else you wanted to do and they'd never say a word. But that little whoo, like that, and it was over with, man. They just all sound off from their beds and everything. So it's really about finding that hot button too, Joe. It's about finding what they want and then maximizing the potential that you have of giving them what they're asking for, you know. Sometimes it's just nothing.
With what Gil just said, right, is you gave them what they asked for, right? But then we change it up, right? Meow, 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 off in the distance, and then what do?
Yeah, you don't want to
go right back.
Total wrong thing to do.
What did you just do? We're like, you're looking at your husband, but like, bro, you know, why did you go there? And then the bull's silent.
Yeah,
9 times out of 10, he's silent after that. Like, whoa, you know. So I
push the button. You push the button. Stick with the
stay
button.
on that daggone button. Yeah.
Now, there
always
might be
wanna
a
ramp it up.
situation. There might be a situation you're in where. So here's the deal, man. A bull is used to having cows coming to him, right? He's going to say, "Come over to me." He's going to make a sound. He's going to do like either like a little roundup, or he's going to make some of those sounds that are like basically "come to me," and he's like, "Well, why isn't she coming to me?" If he does not keep coming to you because you haven't used the terrain or whatever, for whatever reason, he hangs up and he's trying to demand you come to him. Sometimes you got to create a reason why you're not going to him. And the reason and way that I do that is I introduce a bull, but I don't do it by screaming a bugle.
Yeah, at the other bull, right? You're not engaging the bull. You're just sounding like another bull with other cows.
Well, I don't want him to know how big I am. Like as soon as I make a sound, he's going to have an idea that or he's going to be like, well, I haven't heard that voice here yet, right? So I'm going to do some raking. I'm going to do some rock rolling. I might do some panting. I might create like a little love-straighted scenario. Yep. And what I mean by a love-straighted scenario is when you hear sounds like you hear sounds like that, you have no idea how big that bull is.
Right.
You're raking, you have no idea how. You hear glunking, you don't have any idea how big that bull is. Okay.
Nor do I care.
Yeah.
I just want him to come in so I can see him.
That's all you want to do is get him to go, okay, there's another bull, let me go check that bull out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so he comes in. I don't care if he comes silent. I just want him to come in. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
That's what I ended up doing with Jonathan up there this year, just throwing in a bunch of pants and glunking, and we had every bull from a spike to a pretty decent satellite try to run us over. They had no idea how big we were. They weren't scared. They just wanted to come see.
absolutely.
Yeah, they want to be part of the party, man.
So when you hear a bull glunking, what are the things that are going through your head immediately?
Oh, he's tending a cow.
Got a cow.
Yeah. He's tending a cow, right?
There's going to be plenty more around him.
And he's close.
Yeah, it's super close.
You know, when
I still say that's one of the coolest bull sounds you'll ever hear.
100%.
God dang.
Yeah. So if I use those sounds and try to sound like a
almost
frustrated bull with a cow that I want to breed and she's not letting me, that other bull is going to come check it out, right? He's going to do that. Now, here's the other scenario that I use is like you guys said about that advertising bull. I will be that bull. I will just start walking and advertising.
Yep.
Walking. Or if I'm not doing the cow talk, sometimes I'll change over to a destination bull. It's got cows with them. You know, you can hear those chirps and you can hear that little roundup type bugle that he's doing, just that little short bugle that he does to let them know that he's there as you're moving. And you want to do the same thing that they would be doing. You're either moving up or, you know, it just kind of depends, you know, on the terrain. Sometimes it's even just more flat across.
And the Trenoses.
Yes, into the Trenaches, yes.
The thing
only
you don't
going
want to
down.
do, the thing you don't want to
don't
do
go up.
on a bull that's got some temperature, the thing you don't want to do is
I'm
lip
talking
ball.
about animals you're not hearing, though, bro.
I got you. Yeah.
I just want to pull them in, right? Go ahead.
No, you're hearing a bull and he's answering you, and a lot of guys want to go right to the big gnarly lip ball, right? And I mean that's just that. A lot of times that'll end it. You know, the bull's not challenging you; he's just talking to you. He's just talking back, especially if he's talked back to you and chuckled at you. The next thing you don't want to bark and scream this hard, gnarly, lip ball at him. I mean, he's trying to be friendly and let you know, hey, I'm in this area, right? And as soon as you introduce something like that, now it's challenged him, right? So if he's not a giant bull, he might shy away from that. You know, if he's not, and even some big bulls are, they're up in age, they're not wanting to expend that energy right now, especially if they've got cows. So it's different if he's lone. If he's a lone bull and he's been bouncing it back at you and he challenges you, you can hear him with that big gnarly lip ball. He challenges you. Now it's time to get in the game, right? But very rarely does that happen, Joe. Very rarely do we find that bulls are challenging other bulls all the time.
Yeah. So, and the main reason for this thing is I have seen with our hunters, and they're all excited. They've been working on their calls and they know their location bugle. And so they're out there doing their location bugle and they get nada, they get nada, they get nada. And they're like, man, it's time to go back to camp because there ain't no elk in this country, right? And what I'm trying to tell you guys is that when that is happening, you have to change your mode. It has to be changed from you trying to go and hunt them down to doing something to have them hunt you down, right?
Yep.
So this is the point I'm trying to get across, because we always have a tendency, almost always, to go back to response mode, right?
Yeah.
When depending on hearing that sound. And I'll tell you this, a lot of times your responses, you're getting elk that are responding either by moving into you, or sometimes they'll make sounds that you don't even sometimes understand. You just hear this one groan, right? Yeah, and people are like, the heck was that? So let's say that you've been doing cow calls as you've been chumming, you go through the woods, and all of a sudden you hear this.
The monkey chuckle.
You hear it just once or twice like that, right? What is going on with that, man?
He's trying to find you. He's trying to find you or
I'm
call
here.
you to him.
I'm here. He's saying,
I'm here.
I'm here, right?
Yeah.
So why did he even make a vocal noise? Because he hears that cow call. Why didn't he just come all the way in? Well, he's saying, I'm here, and he's inviting you to come to him,
Right.
right? For whatever reason, and most of the time when you get that, it's a younger bull, but not always.
Not all the time.
So if he's doing that, I will tell you this: if he chuckles, do not make a sound.
Exactly.
And you can talk to Guy Duplantier about this, man. He was with Doc on one. They were making sounds at this time, just waiting. They knew a bull was in the area, and it took a long time for that bull, right?
4.5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not just in the mood. But
You knew he was there.
Yeah, he was there.
when I
He was fine,
when I
and
wait on it,
was-
when I wait on it and I don't get that, I'm now really paying attention. I'm making sure I'm in a setup because that bull could still be coming. I don't have to say anything. If he doesn't hear anything, he either is just going to stay there or he's going to come now move forward because he doesn't know where that cow or those cows went to. All right.
And Joe, to pick up on that, since you brought up that bull with Doc, it was time of day thing.
Yep.
Right. I mean, it was hot during the day. We got out a little bit early, had an idea of what we were going to do, where we were going to be, and man, that bull. And I said, oh, he's laying in that bed right where we thought. And we just waited, man. We waited and that was 4.5 hours, a long time to wait. I think I might have called for a total in 4.5 hours for maybe a minute to a minute and a half in that amount of time. And Doc's looking at me like, what are we doing? I'm like, just be patient, man. This is going to happen. And sure as get up, he got up out of that bed like clockwork and he come walking right in, and sometimes they're there, sometimes you got to play it. The problem was that bedding area we didn't have a shot opportunity in there, so it was like, we're going to wait this bull out. And that was a big bull, man.
And see, that's what I want you to, I want people to learn from what's happening, because you had a bull that's in bed. He's not making any noises when he's there, or every now and then he might give away something because you're close enough to hear him do that little bed moan or just that little chuckle, or he might be checking to say, or saying, I'm over here, right? So most of the time we associate silence with a bull leaving or have left, right? Or there's no elk in the country. And I think that's what I'm trying to tell you guys, is that you can do things. If you come into a spot, right, you start working towards a bedding area, into some of that darker timber, and you catch a strong scent, right? Catch that strong smell. You don't have to keep going into that and blow them out of there. You can actually stay off and now create a scenario to let that bull know that there's another cow out here. And all that takes is, and sometimes we overdo it, and it doesn't have to be but
couple of mirrors.
And that's it.
That's
And
it,
just,
dude.
just leave it for a while, man. Just leave it.
When I first started calling with a old Primos black call, which I still have in my reed quiver today, I think more nostalgic than anything, I was with Carl Gamage, and we were in the middle of this really cool spot, and he said, all right, he was just giving me hell about how I was calling, sounding like a damn cat and stuff like that, and he goes, about every 5 minutes, I want you to cow call one time. Yeah.
All you need to do.
Dude, we sat there for 2.5 hours, and every 5 minutes, he'd look over there at me and go, yeah. All of a sudden, after 2.5 hours, I hear something kick a log behind us, clunk, and then clunk, 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 and I turn and look, and there is a load of a 6x7 walking in on us, and all I do, every now and then, 2.5 hours, 5 minutes, that's it. And one call, he wouldn't let me do anything else. And we called that bull into 65 yards behind us, and he got the wind on us because he just kept circling and circling and circling, and the wind changed on us. He got the wind on us. Now, I had a guy with me who's hunted with Joe, and we had a muzzleloader, and I do not know how we didn't kill this bull, but he couldn't shoot him left-handed. He was right-handed, and he didn't want to move. He kind of got locked up on the bull. But if he'd have just raised up and shot him left-handed at 65 yards, he'd be stone dead. You know what I mean? So, but Steve didn't think about that. Tucker was just smitten that we'd ever even called the bull in at all. And again, the bull never said a word. He never bugled. He never said anything. This was the first part of October. Bull never said a word. And this is a big 350-inch bull, right? And he comes out of there all by himself, and he's just looking for the cow, He never chuckled. He never mewed, nothing. Walked in there into a big opening. I'm not talking about a little opening. I'm talking about 100-acre opening. You know what I mean? Big spot. He walks right out in the middle of it looking for, the cow, and we're on the outskirts of it. So it just goes to show you, man, you don't have to sound like a whole herd of elk to call in a bull, right? You just got to be persistent and be in the area that those critters are,
Give him something to come to, right?
Man, it was the perfect thing because, he never said a word, and we weren't overdoing it. It sounded more natural that, how a herd of cows will be. They'll every now and then sound off to find each other around the trees and stuff like that. One of the things Joe said, man, and I hope guys are understanding this, don't be quiet. If you're not hearing anything, you have nothing to lose to advertise yourself, and be very conscious of the area you're in. When I took Cookie into this area where we had all those bulls, we walked into the area, and I looked at him and I said, all right, Cook, tell me what you like about this area. Man, he looked all around up in the trees, and, he's looking everywhere, and he's like, well, it's really pretty. And I'm like, no, man, look 5 feet to your right. And he looked over there and looked, and he goes, am I missing something? I said, yeah, look at that tree that's blown all to pieces, man. And look 10 feet more to the left, there's another one blown all to pieces with the whole tree pushed over. I said, and then look down at your feet and you're standing in warm elk doo-doo, man. I'm like, I said, bro, this is where it's at. The elk are here, man. All we got to do is sound like another one in here, and it's going to be on. The first cow call. Go ahead.
Huge lesson, man. Because Gil is talking about the sign that he's in to identify that there are elk in the area. And once you've done that, and I'll let you continue from there, Gil, you just got to then give them a reason to come look for you, right? Go ahead, bro.
So I expanded that with him and going, let's keep moving. But, I use that 30-30-30 rule where we move for 30 yards and then 30 seconds we glass, and then 30 seconds we wait another 30 seconds and then we move. I said, man, look, I move. I ain't got one speeding, it's 4-wheel drive, but I go slow when I know there are elk in the area because they pick up movement well, right? And the wind was kind of swirly. It was kind of jinky on us. So it was really about us hunkering down and identifying that sign. And what time are they in there, right? Are they close by? So I just took my one cow call. Yeah. Nothing. Didn't hear a thing. I took my bugle tube and I went, whoa. And dude, the ridge lit up. I'm like, oh my God, bro. He looked at me and he goes, are those all bulls? I said, yeah, they're all bulls. I said, but we're in a little spot right here that we got to call them to us. We're not going to be able to go past that barrier, right? So we got to call them to us. It's really difficult. Not an easy thing to do. But if you just act like another elk up there and those bulls are interested, this is early, this is like September 13th, 14th. So these bulls are starting to really feel themselves and starting to sound off. And I mean, it was phenomenal. The amount of elk activity that was just over the ridge from us, but we would have never known that was there had we not put boots on the ground and found that sign.
Here's the thing I want to reemphasize and keep emphasizing is Gil made a sound and had a bull respond back. I will tell you that 8 out of 10 bulls that I've killed came in silently, never making a noise.
Yep.
So you have to stay diligent and focused when you are doing any kind of scenario. Like if you're in an area and you're trying to do a love straighted bull scenario. Again, if you don't know what the love straighted bull scenario is, all I do is for a love straighted bull scenario, I get someplace, I get set up, I have a branch where I can go ahead and rake with, and all I do is I throw out a cow call this direction, maybe a couple in this direction, and I stop and I let them marinate for a little while. I just want to put out there that there's some cows in the area, okay? Then I might start raking a little bit right behind me as I'm throwing a cow call. In other words, I layer my calls when I'm doing something like that. And then I'm going to do things like what you heard me do with the whine, with the huffs, with the moans. Okay, I want to sound a little bit like a frustrated bull that's trying to breed. And then I'm going to throw out those cow calls. I'm going to rake a little bit more again. That to me, that's a love-straighted bull. It's a bull that wants to breed. And he's just full of that energy. And those cows are there and they're not letting them. Okay, so that might be a scenario. If I am doing that scenario in an area where I think I'm gonna have animals come in, that's 45 minutes of doing that. And I am looking for movement. I'm listening for rolling rocks. I'm listening for a hoof on a log, a hoof on a log, all right? I'm listening, maybe even a bull that starts raking out there. Okay, I'm gonna hear
crashing horns together, two fighting.
Yeah, you can hear different things. Or I just want to pay attention for movement that's coming in. So what I'm trying to tell you is just because the elk are silent doesn't mean that you're not able to kill them. And when I do a destination bull scenario, first thing in the morning, I'm just trying to imitate another bull taking a group of cows going to bed. And when other elk hear that, it is realistic to the situation, and those bulls will start coming into that, right?
They'll be silent. They won't hardly say a word.
Yeah. Because they want to identify what that is, right? You know, Jeremy, I want to ask you about your hunt this year, and it was a rifle hunt, but there were still elk talking at that point in time. And talk about your final bit, what happened there when you jumped that bull and what happened from there.
Yeah, it sounded like Gil was describing exactly what happened to me this year a little bit ago. I actually didn't hear a single vocalization that whole 5 days I was out, and ended up having to use my nose. That's what I like to do when they're not talking. Is you put the wind to keep your scent out of the elk, but I love to use it to get the smell of the elk. So I'll actually wait till those thermals are coming up and get above the bedding areas until I can smell them. But yeah, smelled them, didn't slow down enough, busted the bull out of his bed and just barked at him. Barked at him through a couple cow calls and just sat down for an hour and was able to sneak into 60 with the rifle and shoot him. But it goes to show you, he totally saw me. He blew out of there. I mean, it was crashing like crazy, but like you said, Gil, earlier, he didn't see me and smell me. I knew I had my wind right, and that's all it took to get him slowed down. But
So he's not telling you I got a text on this whole thing.
Yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah, he crashed out. Then I text Joe, "Do you think I should follow him? Should I track him?" And you're like,
Yeah.
"Well, yeah, obviously."
Yeah.
But I told him I want you to sit down and not make a noise for about a half hour, right? Because just because that bull saw you and that bull heard something, he never smelled him, so he didn't know what boogered him. Just let him relax back down again.
Heck yeah.
That's a
One
huge
thing I
key,
wanted
right?
to ask you guys on is when they're not talking at all. I think for guys that are newer and don't have 40 whatever years of elk hunting under their belt, don't have that spidey sense. It's really hard to have confidence that there are elk within earshot of you. What's your minimum threshold? What do you have to see, hear, smell to be confident in slowing down, in setting up, in waiting an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours?
Yeah.
That's a great question. Guy, you got an answer? How long do you? What really tips you off to make you start?
Man, it goes back to what you were talking about, to what Joe was talking about, right? Is getting in that sign. Jeremy talked about it with the smell.
Yeah.
If I get into an area and man, I know they're there, like,
Yeah.
I walk out in the backyard, I got all the oak brush, a few yards back, and it hits me as soon as I open the door. I'm like, whoa, we're going out into the front with the pup to piss him. We'll walk around and there the elk are, man. It's the same thing, right? I'm looking at that sign. I'm looking, oh man, there's a good fresh rub there. That's a hot pile of doo-doo right there. Do they want to be here? You know what I mean? That's the first thing I'm looking at. Like, why is this an elky area, right? To say it's a green area for me. It's the first time I've ever been there. It's a plan C that I did 5 minutes of e-scouting on, right? Why do the elk want to be there? Is this a viable area? There's two saddles. Oh man, there's a saddle on that side, a saddle on that side. I got a wallow over here. There's a spring down there. I mean, the easy answer is it's endless possibilities. I got to put myself on their hallway. I got to behave like the elk. When I'm out there, I got to think like them. Yeah. I mean, that's the only way I can explain it, man. You really got to flip. You got to flip your mindset and not necessarily become, the hunter, the predator, but become the elk in that situation when you're 100%. Looking for them.
There you go.
Right? And then when you are in them, then you become the predator. Then you become
No doubt. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I got to
flip
become
that
the
switch
elk.
then.
Yeah.
What about you, Charlie?
I mean, a lot mirrors what Guy was saying. I mean, I'm just, if it's pretty slow and I'm not hearing anything, I mean, I'm just trying to cut sign. And once I cut sign,
hunker down,
whether it be, fresh crap or, if was a heavy dew or light rain, it's got a fresh track. I mean, just trying to find something that gives me some hope that they're there. Drive down a road and, hanging out the side looking, for a track crossing the road. I mean, just anything that just shows me where they may be.
Like Jeremy said, man, when I smell them, ooh, buddy.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that's huge.
Man, that's a big deal for me, right? I know as soon as I start smelling them, I got to slow down and I got to get in that 4-wheel drive mode and then do what I do. Guy and I, a couple of years back in '53, we got together and really found this location almost by accident, really. I won't say it's accident because we did some good e-scouting and knew these elk wanted to be there. It was a great place for them to be. And, Guy and myself and Mr. Messer and Larry Gill, and we went in there together, and, we ended up calling some bulls in. And for me, I was like, man, I know. And look, it was all day, all morning that you could hear these bulls, right? And I told Guy, I said, man, I learned one thing I learned real early is you don't leave elk to go find elk, right? At the end of the day, if they're there, I got to figure out a way to get them interested in me. Sometimes it won't happen, but you give me 5 to 6 days to figure out what their hot button is, I'm going to get somebody to give me an opportunity, right? So when Guy and I found that area, it's not a big spot. It's small.
At all.
Relatively small. But Bud, they want to be there, and they want to be there year in and year out because it's what they do. It's on a bedding ridge that they're going to bed every time that they get up and leave an area. They're going there to bed, right? So we're essentially calling them fools out of their beds and getting them interested. And they're very quiet. They don't say very much at all. But as soon as the morning hits, they're going nuts and everything. But as soon as they start up from the bottom to that ridge, they're like, shut up, and they won't hardly say anything. But when I figured that out, that's what they were doing and where to get in that saddle to get them interested, that changed the game. I could call a bull in there every day. It was that, and it wasn't hard. It was just a few cow calls and a chuckle, and that was it. And then that hoot would make them go nuts.
I mean, and like Gil's talking about, right? Relatively small area. And one day me and Mike, you were in there and nothing was saying nothing, right? So I said, we're going to sit down here and I'm going to glass for a minute. And I glassed up 3 bulls, and he, took the long loop around while I sat there with him in the glass, and I watched him put on a heck of a stalk up into a bull. And then the one thing I will say, right, is we talked about finding sign, and I think Jeremy's point is perfect with the scent. Joe said it earlier too. If you can smell them, you know for sure that they're right there. And you'll know the difference between that fresh urine and that sweet, sweet smell of elk.
Stench, yeah.
But I will say, so my ridge behind the house is 1.89 miles away to the peak. Okay, and I went out, I don't know, Joe and I were on the phone last week or 2 weeks ago, and I'm glassing these bulls and this group of cows right below them, 2 miles away essentially, and get off the phone with Joe. I go in, grab my glass, grab my all-in for my phone, and walk back outside. Maybe 15, 20 minutes later, guess where they're at?
Right.
7 yards from the back door. Right. So my point being, 2 miles, right? The wife and I made that hike on Saturday, almost 5,000 vertical feet in less than half an hour. They had already cut all that distance, right? So if you're in the sign, it's a great start. But considering the size of the animal, how they move through their habitat, right? You can put some time in there, but don't get so bought into that one pin location that you don't move and keep looking for them, right? Sometimes it is what it is. 20, 25 minutes for 2 miles, 5,000 foot of elevation.
Yeah, I'm
Usually,
really mobile, man, but I always want to let elk know that there's another elk in the country there so that they can start coming to me. I don't want to be walking around Walmart trying to find my wild man.
aimless. Yeah, can't be aimless, right?
Joe and Keith were in that same region that me and Cookie were, and they actually had a bull come to them. They thought maybe it was me talking, and I hadn't said a word. The bull we actually heard the bull. Joe was coming from the very bottom of the ridge. We were at the top of the ridge, and Joe's walking directly crosswind, and which is perfect. I mean, it's a perfect scenario for them. And they actually had that bull blow up probably a half a mile from them, and he came all the way to them, right? And it took that bull a long time. It took Joe a long time to make that maybe 800 to 1,000 yard walk on that ridge. It probably took Joe an hour and a half to make that. And we were just cow calling. That's it. Never had a bull sound at all, but that bull actually, and we must have had a wind that got us between him and them, and they might have smelled me. They could have smelled Joe or whatever. But that bull only sounded off one time, and Joe heard him, and then Joe just started doing what Joe does, which is cow calling, and here come that sucker, but he shut up. Generally, when that happens, you were found out, you were found out. The bull heard us or smelled us or, and didn't like what he had. So he just shut up and eased out of the country.
If I only had one call that I had to use to be able to kill an elk, it would be a cow call.
100%.
And I would rather be moving through the country advertising that I'm a lonely girl than I'm an aggressive dude, right? I think I'm going to attract so many more flies with sugar than I am with vinegar. And I have killed and like I've told people this too, that's like this whole thing with the lip ball. I mean, everybody sees that in competitions and blah, blah, blah. I killed 36 elk, never ever used a lip ball, man. And most of the time, most of those elk died to cow calls, right? So I'm just putting that out there, and most of those elk came into me silently, so I just want you to know that, and you got to believe in it. You got to have faith in it. And that's what Jeremy was like, well, what does it take, like your time and everything like that, you feel confident or you're not going to walk out on it.
What it takes.
And I'll tell you this, Jeremy, like, when I am there again, I always associate, because with me, it's still a hurry up and slow down. There's country I blow through, because if it's midday and I'm sweating my cojones off, I know there ain't no elk in that country right there, because they don't want to be in that situation at midday. And then all of a sudden I hit an area and all of a sudden things cool down and get dark. Man, I'm starting to slow down. I look down and I'm hitting a fresh track, or I'm seeing fresh droppings. Now I've really started to slow down a little bit, and really now, looking ahead of me, those 70 yards, those 80 yards, looking for those bodies that are out there. But now I'm also going to start introducing myself so that I can if they are moving, I'm more apt to spot them if they're moving and I'm not. If I'm moving and they're not, they have the advantage, right? So
Joe might see him, but he sure as heck won't hear him.
all I got to do is see him.
You just gave him props about hearing that one from way off. You just gave him props about it.
Yeah. He can hear some sounds way off. He can hear some sounds way off. He can hear some sounds way off. It's that high pitch one that gives him trouble, but he can still hear some bulls from time to time. But if they're tight and they got that high pitch, he doesn't hear them.
It just depends on the situation and what's happening and stuff like that. So I really focus on, and maybe that's a blessing. I mean, because when I was killing all those silent elk, it wasn't because I wasn't hearing them then, right? I had really, really good ears then. But one thing that it's done for me is it's taught me to be able to spot elk coming into me, to get them moving, so that I now have the advantage. And once I have an elk spotted and they're moving, now I go into closing mode, right? And I'm starting to do the things to be able to steer that critter or see where it's going, what it's doing, what it's coming into, and get ready to close the deal there, right? And I will tell you this, just because you see an elk coming into you, that doesn't mean it's now time to make a noise again.
Yeah.
Right? If that bull is in search mode and it's coming in those directions, it's searching for you, yeah, just let him keep coming. Now, if he hears something else and he starts to go the wrong direction, well, now I got to convince him otherwise, right? But you don't always have to make a noise. Sometimes we do that out of nervousness, right?
Yep.
So
wanting to make it happen when you didn't need to do anything but be quiet.
Right.
Look, I pulled that this year with Cookie. All I needed to do was be quiet. After I got that bull rolling through there, we had him at 41 yards. Cookie just couldn't get drawn back, right? And all I did was keep cow calling going away. which I shouldn't have done. I should have just shut up and walked out of that bull's life, and that bull would have walked by him at 15 yards, right? And Cookie would have had to make a decision there whether we're going to draw at him and blow him up or not. But my fault in that whole thing was not being quiet after the bull already committed and walked in the set at 40 yards. I just kept calling with the decoy going away, and he was chuckling and everything else trying to get me to come back, which if I'd have just shut up, he'd have never saw me, you know, and I'd have just walked out of that bull's life. It was the wrong thing to do, but we get nervous. The bull's hung up, you know, we're wanting to coax him to come in further. And when I got eyes on him, I'm already too close, right? I mean, I'm waiting at any second this thing to go whack, you know, it's over, and it just never happened, right? But again, Cookie got caught in that moment where he was worried about the bull boogering when he drew, you know. But he said, bull looking at me. I said, no.
I would advise guys, man, sometimes, and I know this is hard to do, and I know how antsy you are, but sometimes when you're there, tell yourself you're not hunting that bull, that you're just here to enjoy and observe them. And you'll find sometimes that if you just let things happen, you know, and get in that mode, it'll relax yourself a little bit, and you'll find that you'll sometimes be in better situations because you're not trying to force the issue. You're not trying to impose your will on the situation. You're letting the situation. Now, there's sometimes when I have to, because I'm not going to let a bull walk out of my life. If I see, you know, that happening, well, then we're going to do something about that. But I'm going to be smart. I'm going to use that tube. And that's what Gilbert, man, I'm telling you, a flexible tube that's worn around so that I can use it at any time and throw a call back behind me. So it's bouncing off trees 30 or 40 yards instead of making a sound right here. I never want an elk to know I'm right here. So if that animal's doing the wrong thing and I throw a call back behind me, man, now he stops and he looks, and now he's looking back behind me, and it's going, and I've steered him that way. So that can help you, man. And
biggest bull I ever killed in my life, I bugled a cow called 3 times behind me. I had a cow at 12 yards. And I'm getting ready to kill her because at the time I didn't care how big the bull was. It really didn't matter to me, or a cow. I'm gonna kill her. Yeah, I'm killing an elk, right? Cow's walking in, I'm getting ready to draw, and I hear a bull bugle just past her, and then I see these giant antlers coming across the dang jack pines, right? I'm like, oh my God, look at this thing walking here. Well, maybe hang on a second, right? And he got hung up. He just stood there a second, and I cow called. Yeah, that was it. He bugles and he comes walking in there at 71 yards, man. But all I had done up until that point was sound like a cow. Had I probably bugled at him or something, I might have blew the whole thing up, right? They were coming to us the whole time, man. You know, so like Joe said, man, be a lover before you're a fighter, you know, and then give it time. Let it marinate, man. I think all of us get caught up especially if you're a good caller, man. And all of these guys on this panel are phenomenal. Guy, Jeremy, you know, all these guys are phenomenal callers. We get in love with that too much at times, and we can actually, it can be a detriment. You know, less is more than you think. You know, less is more. Especially when elk are silent. You know, especially when they're not talking and it ain't blowing up around
read
you.
the room, right? You got to
Yep.
read the room, man. You know, if elk are being just and I've seen it. You know, I've had bulls that are walking around. They just make this, and because bulls mew, they'll just be like, just this little quiet mew as they're moving. Nothing that people are going to hear far off. And the more that you stay low on your vocalizations too, the fewer you're going to call in other hunters as well, right? So look, we're going to tie this up, and I really want you to understand the whole purpose of this. The whole purpose of this show tonight is to get you to change your mentality from hunting bugles or giving up when elk go silent to thinking that there's no elk in the woods, because there are elk in the woods. You just got to go now, change your tactic, and start to get them to come to you instead of you searching them out, right? Now, if they're going to be vocal, they're making it easy for you. That's the easy button, man. Or if they're going to scream coming in to challenge you, that's the easy button. Well, that doesn't happen a whole lot, right? And it's great in the videos when it happens and you're getting to see the highlight films. But in real life, remember, 95% of hunters are going to be unsuccessful, right? And 5% of those are the same guys killing elk every year. And these are the type of things that they're doing. They have confidence in what they're doing. They understand that they can kill elk when they're not being vocal. Otherwise, nobody would kill any elk then. So I want you to understand that, number one, you can kill elk when they're silent. Change your tactic. Start doing things, looking and listening, to try to figure out. Use your nose, use your eyes, find those areas, hunt those trails,
sign.
look for that sign.
Transition.
And then, chum, give elk a reason to come to you. Change those tactics, all right?
Joe, I don't think I've done anything in my elk hunting career that affects your hunt more than chumming. I'm telling you straight up. I've been with you for 15 years elk hunting, and I've been with RC Knox, I've been with Carl Gamage. Generally, when things are really quiet and you make it happen yourself, and you start sounding like a few elk animals around, and you're just chumming, man. We're just sounding like other elk. I can't tell you how fast that can change the game. It's a slow process, but it can change it in an instant, man, where you go from nothing to all out chaos in just a few seconds, right?
Well,
you
and
just
remember,
gotta
elk
believe
do
in it.
things in elk's time, right?
They do.
So,
They do.
Can't
tell you how many times I've been with Joe and there's just nothing going on, and we decide we're going to put on a party. And look, Joe and I both have had eyes on bulls, multiple bulls that are below us, and we put on this horrendous party, and they don't even look up from feeding. I mean, it's like, bro, did you see that? And then we do one thing that gets one of them to look up, and then it's on. We figure out that hot button. But we've both had eyes on bulls, and it didn't matter what we said, what we've done. So we want all of you to know that, it just takes going through that repertoire, right? But more than anything is do something. Do something to help yourself. This calling thing that we talk about, it is so important to your success being an archer, hunt, and even you rifle guys, man. When
talk to Jeremy about that.
Yeah, when y'all are there, we gotta stop the bull to try to shoot him. You don't have to, but it's kind of sucks if you gut shoot one and he's trotting away or running when all you had to do was bark at him or bugle at him or even cow call, and they'll stop. I can't tell you how many bulls I've boogered and I've drew on them and got them to stop with a cow call and killed them with a bow. 60, 70 yards, man. Just stay in the fight and believe in your skill set, man. That's what we do here, is teach guys to have a skill set. And it's what we do better than I think anybody out there, is hunt and kill silent bulls. And that's why, go ahead, Bubba.
Gil said something right now, right? Stay in the fight. And I'm gonna step out on a limb here and say 90% of the folks that get into silent bull are going to take their butts into camp, leave camp late, get back to camp early, hang in camp longer.
Good point.
Because they're not hearing, seeing, not experiencing. It's the worst thing you could do. If you're the average Joe, you're 5 to 7 days on a hunt. I didn't call you an average Joe. No, I will.
Joe
And
took
I
offense
have,
to
but
that.
nonetheless. But that's a thing. I saw it last year, right? It was, you couldn't get a response to a cow sound. Okay. And I went through it all, and it was, getting the toolkit, finally found the button. But guess what? The only reason we found the button is because we weren't sitting in camp with the other 3 and 4 guys.
Yeah.
We were out on the mountain, and we were just emptying the tool bag, right? Stay the heck
Yeah,
out of camp.
Yeah, you can't kill
Camp
can't
lavish
kill
and
elk from the
comfortable.
tent. No.
No.
Yeah, and we mimicked that too with you in Colorado last year, brother. It was really the bull sounds that did it for us, right? But not necessarily big bull sounds, but bull type
man.
sounds, man.
Yeah, a light, punky 3 cadence chuckle.
Yes, yes.
Man,
They wouldn't
7 bulls at a time.
They wouldn't hardly even lift their head up to a cow call.
Yep.
You know, another thing I want before we get out of here, guys, I gotta give you this little gem, man, that I got in Canada from our brother from the north, Mr. Travis O'Shea. RC and I and Dylan were hunting some really thick area with some bulls that wouldn't respond to calls. They wouldn't respond to a cow call. They wouldn't respond to another bull call. And Trav told us, he said, a lot of our bulls will get real quiet when the wolves get around, right? And they don't want to announce where they're at. Predation is a big thing there with black bears and wolves. He said, so what we found is those bulls won't answer to a cow call, but they will respond to a calf call. Mm-hmm. And man, I just gotta say, and I think Joe and everybody else on this panel, we talk about cow calls all the time, but when it's quiet and there's nothing going on and you know there's elk present, like maybe you bedded them down, right? You bedded them down and you want to get them up out of that bed midday or whatever. I don't know that there's anything better than a constant calf call trying to find his mama, man. Dude, those bulls, as soon as we introduced that calf call, and we were consistent with it about 1 or 2, 3 calls at most every minute and a half to 2 minutes. I mean, it was solid for 30 minutes, man. That bull was there the whole time because RC and Brian had eyes on him. We didn't. We were below him. But RC and them had eyes on him, and all of a sudden, the bull, we hit a couple little sounds of calf sounds, and the bull goes, roar. It took him 35 minutes to respond to us, man.
Yeah.
But it was the calf that got him to respond. So, man, remember that. And for me, it's happened to me in New Mexico, too. I got a way more response from the calf call than I did the cow call. So you just never know what's going to spark their interest and get them to want to come seek while you're hiding.
And guys, when you're trying to do that calf call, all it is just a shorter hit with the diaphragm where you have that with a cow call, you just
That's it, dude.
it's just a little short hit with the diaphragm.
Bulls know calves are with cows, and they want to come find that out, man.
All right.
I had to give you that from Travis because it helped me so much.
Awesome, dude.
Yes, sir.
Great show tonight, guys.
Unbelievable. Always good to have our coaches in camp with us. You know, Mr. Gilbertson and Mr. Duplantier, Mr. Newberry. Always good to have everybody in camp with us. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate, and review us. You got to go to Apple Podcast or iTunes to review us. And be sure to include your name and where you're from to get in on our spinner winner wheel and drawing. And you can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. Also, a reminder, if any of our listeners would like to have their questions answered on our show, just send your questions to joe@elkbros.com. And also, we're still open for our Adventure Club opportunities. So y'all check us out at elkbros.com and go to our Adventure Club if you want to get in. 1 in 32 chance to draw a $10,000 elk hunt to come hunt with us. We still have tags available, Joe, in 53.
Yep.
For guys that want to DIY, we still have tags available. We still have hunts available on both our properties, and would love to have you guys in camp with us and come and hunt on a guided or a accompanied hunt with us, and also a teaching or a coached hunt with us. So again, all of that stuff, you can check us out online at elkbros.com. And like we say down here in the Lone Star State, husbands kiss your wives, wives kiss your husbands, hug your babies, keep your broad head sharp and your powder dry, and we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
And if you guys are interested in picking up Joe's favorite piece of gear, Pursuit Poncho Heavier or Western fly covers, get 15% off with code Blue Collar.
There you go.
Sweet,
And I tell you what,
dude.
if you do not have the Pursuit Poncho, you are completely missing out. The
No
best
doubt.
piece of mountain rain gear there is. So
100%.
100%. You guys, thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Get you some.
See ya.
Keep getting ready.
Where others fear is home to me. No boundaries for my soul. The pounding, the primal blood, driving hunger like no other, running through my veins. No man versus nature, only me versus me. A centuries old challenge, raging deep inside my soul. No anger, malice or evil, only a hunter and his prey. This is my life, country born and raised. When that whistle blows, I'm on the trail, pounding in my head. There's a will, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way. This is my life, I know it's my day, my life. Don't think you know me, my life, no odds will own me, my destiny, my way. Like a ghost unseen, tasting every scent, knowing with every breeze. The trail before me, the fire burning inside me. This is what we live for, honor, passion, and pain. This is my life, grinder born and raised. When that whistle blows, I'm on the trail, pounding in my head. There's a will, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way. This is my life, I know it's my day, my life. Don't think you know me, my life, no odds will own me, my destiny, my way. This is my life, runner born and raised. When that whistle blows, I'm on the trail, pounding in my head. There's a will, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way. This is my life, I know it's my day, my life. Don't think you know me, my life, no odds will own me, my destiny.